Hello, and welcome to the North Carolina Museum of History and the 25th Annual American Indian Heritage Celebration. Our presenter, Rex Harris, will begin in just a moment, but we want to begin with a few notes. Remember to ask questions in the chat, and we'll do our best to respond to them and share with our presenter. We have many additional resources about American Indians in North Carolina on our website. If you visit nc-aihc.com. We would like to thank the following sponsors of the North Carolina Museum of History Foundation for helping to make this event possible. Now let's get started. Welcome, Rex. What are you sharing with us today?
Rex Harris. I'm a Haliwa Saponi tribal member. I'm a flintknapper, which I replicate artifacts, stone tools from. I do it two different ways. I work with Aboriginal tools, which are bone and stone, and I also work with modern tools today, which is copper. With copper, works similar to bone and antler. So today I will show my tools and demonstrate a couple different procedures that I do, and just show my stones and what type of stones I have. And first of all, this is some of the stuff that I replicate. These are all replications of different artifacts of North Carolina. This is they call it Lost Lake, and this was kind of a red stone. They call it red stone. It's not because of just the type of stone. First places they were found, they named, archaeologists had named different stones from different places. Same as Clovis. Clovis was first found in Clovis, New Mexico, and then in Cactus Hill, Virginia. It was just named Clovis. It has nothing to do with the native people there whatsoever. So here's another one called a thieves, another type of arrowhead or spear point, because a lot of people think that they find an arrowhead and it's this big, but normally arrowheads are real teeny, because this size would be either a spear or an atlatl point, but or some were smaller knives and such, utility knives for skinning game. In North America, the animals got smaller over time, and they can tell by the size of the projectile points over time. Even the indigenous people of North America were recycling. They would find these 200 years after the fact. Somebody lost it and it was broken. The tip would have been broken, and they would resharpen it. And that was just a constant thing. When I was young here in North Carolina, I would hunt fields as a kid, and after a rain, you can see arrowheads even today. If you hit the right field near water, because all the indigenous people always followed water. So any remaining creeks, rivers, if there's a field there, more likely there was a camp. You start seeing flakes near the campsites, not necessarily this big, but smaller than this, but you start seeing flakes, more likely there was people there, because there was water there. They hunted near water because animals need water. So that's how we find arrowheads today, because we look around and over. They're still there, because these have been made in North America for tens of thousands of years. So you can imagine how many times these have been replicated, made. You can still find them, but sometimes you can find them with different. They were either children, somebody learning. You can see that they were practicing, or it wasn't a good point, and they discarded it, or they just left it, or went on. But a lot of tools and stuff were also just left by its side because they traveled. They moved around with the animals. They would move into areas. All the game was probably gone. The hunting got kind of scarce, so they would move on to another area. So here are my tools. Here I work with different types of the Aboriginal tools, which is this is moose, moose antler, pretty heavy. It's about a pound. So I use this to break down my heavy rocks, cobbles like this size, and then it's, another moose antler, which this is the part that's attached to the head, which is extremely hard. Then I use whitetail antler to pressure plate with. They work great. Some people nap with those, but I use all different stuff. This is one of my abrader stones, which I use to abrade my pieces, and you'll see me use that later. I use just a regular clamshell to shave down the sides of it to shape my pieces, which that's mostly the abo tools, the Aboriginal tools, as the ancient people used. And these tools are not just, to North America. Everybody's ancestors, if you're here today, your ancestors used something similar to this to replicate these tools. I don't care what continent you came from. All our ancestors came from this. This was technology, very advanced technology. These people were not, a lot of people say they weren't intelligent, but it was highly intelligent, because a lot of this material that we use today, and they used also, they would heat treat it to make it more workable, and also it would change colors. Because a lot of material like this is a piece of Ohio Flint Ridge, and this piece could have been brown, but once it's heat treated, it turned orange. Some turns red, but they know that because they can tell by how the colors were in this type of material, which is still, the ancient ones were digging this same material up as we do today. And it would, like I said, it would change the colors. Colors were important to them, but once they heated it, they would heat it in sand pits and cook it. People today, modern people, they heat flint and chert in turkey ovens and kilns. You can do it the old way, but it takes a lot of trial and error. So
can you talk a little bit more about how you would do it the old way in terms of heating it in the sand pit?
Yeah. So they would go to the quarries, and they would pull out these chunks similar to this. And a lot of times in quarries, you can tap flint and hear that water's been in there. You would hear fractures in there. You would have to practice, but I can hear no fractures in this piece. So, but this is a Texas flint because a lot of Texas flint was never frozen, but water didn't get in there and freeze, because once water gets into a stone, it expands and cracks. But a lot of flint, so they would go to the quarries, get these pieces out, and break them down into what we call preforms. Preform is a piece that's probably similar to this, sometimes a little thicker. So they would take these, and they would do all this at the quarry, because they didn't want to. It's a lot of work to carry these nodules back to their camp. They were always back, somewhere else. So they take it back to their camp this side. They would work it in a quarry, and then bring it back, and then dig a pit. And they knew the temperatures of these things. They knew how long to cook it, because sometimes, it's just like today. If we cook something too long, guess what? It's shot. It's done. Same way with flint. If it's cooked too long, if you don't know the recipe, how long to cook it, how many hours, because you ruin it. Because I've done it myself. I got some flint from another state, from Wyoming, which was called oil chert, and I didn't have the recipe. So I did it in the turkey oven, and next thing you know, I ruined it. It was no good to me because I didn't know the recipe. How long, temperature. So I called the guy I got it from, and then I was on. But the ancient people didn't have that technology that we could call somebody but they got it themselves and knew this material. The ancient ones, in different places, especially Ohio, there's abundance amount of flint there. And Flint Ridge was a place, there's flint there underground that's 9 miles long, 6 miles wide, underground. And there's quarries all over the place. And the Indian people, they would, it was like a sacred place, because your people would come there and do your thing and then leave. That's what they say. But you know, and then other people would come, and I've been there myself and digging. And me when I was digging this type of flint, as I was digging under a tree, what we call a hammerstone rolled out, which was from the ancient ones. I knew what it was because it just rolled out. So they were testing their flint, breaking down those nodules into preforms. So that's that's how it was heated. So you know, once they heated it, it become more workable. Here in North Carolina, there's not a lot of flint. There is some church in there's a place called Morrow Mountain, North Carolina, and there's rhyolite, which if you heat treat it, it doesn't do any good. So the Indian people here, they were working that type of material was extremely hard, like quartz and quartzite. These were hard materials, but the indigenous people here in North Carolina and Virginia, some places on the East Coast, South Carolina, some places in Georgia, they were using that material. They were working it, which today, a lot of flint knappers like me, there's very small handfuls that can work that material because it's extremely hard. And to get a point out of it, it's you know, you start working it and then it falls apart. So it's hard to get a point out of like quartz like this because it has so many veins in it. It's sharp stuff, but it's unpredictable and very hard to work. So that's what we were dealing with here in the East Coast. But West Coast, they had different materials, different types of flint throughout the whole country, throughout the world, basically.
So you use your tools to shape the flint. Can you talk a little bit about how you acquired your tools and how they would have acquired their tools in the past?
Applied my tool.
How you acquired your tools, where you got your tools from, and maybe
Yeah.
how they would have gotten them traditionally?
Yeah. Traditionally, you know, these would come from, you know, this type of material. I mean, I'm sure there was moose here in North Carolina many years ago. You know, they're all gone in this area. Elk, they would use elk, but elk's a little more porous, didn't work as well. Whitetail works good. And another hammerstone, which I don't have today, but hammerstone would work to break down your rocks. And this is a braiding stone, which uses to braid and strengthen your flint as you were to take percussion flakes off of it. But you know, I acquire these tools from different places. I go to, if somebody wanted to flint knap or learn, there's a lot of places that you can get these tools. You know, they're relatively cheap. Sometimes people will give them to you. Deer hunters will give them to you. I do a lot of I'm a bone carver and an antler carver and a soapstone carver. So I go to deer processing places where they process deer meat, where hunters take their deer. And most of the times deer hunters don't want these type of antlers. They're not going to be mounted. They discard them or give them to dogs or pigs. But I go there and you know, ask for them. But a lot of times I do trade my work for somebody's stuff that they're going to discard or whatever. But I do that and I use these. Like I said, I'm an antler carver. These are all antler beads that I have carved out of recycled material. This is all moose antler. So that's how I acquire most of these. Some of these are dog chew places. If you want to learn to nap, there's dog chew places that sell these type of items.
So you're known all across the state for your flint knapping skills. Can you tell us how you learned how to do this?
Like I said, when I first started, I was intrigued when I was a kid, and it took me till I was 40 years old to start learning to do this type of trade. So I got intrigued and went to a small class, and you know, it's like a one-day class, which you know, I have people come to me, you know, adults and teenagers that are like, you know, I want to learn to make an arrowhead today. And when I go there, I mean, when they come to me, they're like, I want to make an arrowhead today, and that's kind of impossible. I don't care who you are, but it takes time. You have to break a lot of rocks to come up with something like this. So, I mean, it looks easy when I do it, just like everything, because I've been doing it for almost 10 years now. So I replicated a lot of different points and did a lot of shows and stuff like that. And I teach a lot of people too. So I'm interested in sharing this because this is something that I do not want to take with me. I want to share it because there's a lot of people that do not want to share their artwork, and I'm not one of those because I want to leave this because this was a dying art until pretty much there were some people in California that met a guy named Ishi. Ishi, well, that was just a name in his language as man. They don't really know what his real name was, but Ishi was a Yahi Indian. He was the last one. He just wandered into a camp that they didn't know what was going on with him because nobody could speak his language. They were like, this guy just dropped out of the sky. But Ishi was, like I said, a Yahi, and all his people were dead. So Ishi was living at a university there in California, which he started replicating artifacts, making stone points. And a lot of it he used was glass and stuff like that. But a lot of archaeologists didn't have no idea how a lot of this stuff was replicated until they met Ishi. Even though Ishi was only with us for 5 years after he got tuberculosis and passed away. But he shared so much in that short period of time. So Ishi is like a legend, and he was a gift. He was a gift to people here, just to share that lost art because once Columbus came, this art died. It kind of went away, kind of sort of in some places because once uh, Columbus came, it went into metal tools. There was stone, there was metal points, trade points. But back to Ishi. Ishi brought us this, which is not like Ishi's, but this is still what we call it in his name is the Ishi stick, which we use for pressure flaking. That's blowing little small pressure flakes off of flint, and I'll demonstrate that here in a second. But that's where that came from is Ishi. So he's a legend to me and most flint nappers. And in North America, they say there's probably 10,000 flint nappers, believe it or not. But there's only a small handful that are native people. But like I said, this art, this way of life was everybody's culture, which I'm thankful for everybody that's participating and sharing this love.
Thank you for sharing this with us.
Yep. So now I'll go ahead and use my abo tools to break down this nodule into a kind of preform. I just don't want to get too big because it's a big piece. I don't want to make a big mess. So this is a piece of, like I said, this is Texas flint. It's a huge piece. So it's kind of got like a chalky outer layer, which we call that the cortex. And then it's been knocked off from another nodule. So this piece could have been huge. In Texas also, there's abundance amount of flint because also it's never been frozen there over time. But flint is abundance all over the ground in some places. There's some places I get flint, and the guy he hunts a $5,000 acre ranch, and it's just flint like this. It's got pinks in it, and this has been cooked flint. He's cooked it in a kiln for 500 degrees for so many hours, and it like I said, it does change the colors. And there's a lot of beautiful type of flint. Some is gray, some is black. I have all different types of flint that I use. So I'm gonna take this nodule and break it down with my moose antler. So what we work off of is mainly platforms. All flakes work with ridges and platforms. You can't nap a 90-degree angle. You have to get rid of that. And these nodules or preforms, mostly nodules, they're worse than a Rubik's Cube. Because once you get a Rubik's Cube, you're done. You got it. You can do a Rubik's Cube. These, none of them are the same. So once you pick one up, you're like, what's its problems? What can I do with it? How can I get into this nodule to make some type of preform or a point out of it? So get them down to this thin. This is like I said, this is a preform. It's been taken out, same material, but you see how thin it's got. So that's when it gets critical when you get down thin, napping a piece Because one wrong hit and you shock the piece, and then now you got two pieces, so you can make two arrowheads then. So I'm going to break this down. I'm going to use both tools. First, I'm going to use my moose billet to break that. I just don't want to hit anybody, but so we're looking for ridges, platforms. So what I see already is this piece here that's sitting out, so I can take some of this chunk out. So basically, I got to straighten my platform out. You see how easy that is to break off? So you put it on your leg. I know this feels like it's gonna hurt, but this is the strongest part of your body here, of your leg. So if you hit here, it's gonna hurt. If you hit up here, it's gonna hurt. So here we go. So did you hear it? So that you can hear that good sound. That even though I hit it 3 times, the last one, so it crumbled a little bit, but it took off that much. So still got a little bit of platform here. So I'm gonna work that and take it on across here. All right, we had a big chunk fall off. That's okay. So, and these small pieces that come off, I usually save them and I give them to other little nappers, people that are learning. This is good learning material. So again, I'm looking for a platform, which I have one here, and I have one here. So here I got to get rid of this. Remember I said we can't nap a 90-degree angle. You're just going to crack the rock in half. So we got to work with that. We got a little pocket here, so we got to work with that a little bit too. So what I'm going to do is abrade a little bit. I'm going to try to shoot this flake somewhere right there. Not saying it's going that far, but that's my plan. And the main thing is supporting your piece. So I'm putting it on my leg, angle. So didn't go as far as I want, but still, there's an arrowhead in there. You know, you got to get it out. So I have another platform here that I can take some more. You know, people always ask, you know, why don't you wear gloves? I do get cut. This is a blood sport. So I used to wear gloves until I drove a flake in through my glove. So now you got to get the glove off. So that's the hard part. So you're going to get cut because of, you know, I don't have any obsidian here, but obsidian is the sharpest edge to man. It's just volcanic glass. So that flake went into my glove. So I'd rather have no glove. So, but over time you learn how to use your tools better and watch those flakes because, you know, as you're learning, I can't say how many times I've been cut.
That's what I was just going to ask you, what safety precautions you were taking.
Well, safety precautions is glasses, number one, because you don't want to lose an eye. Because I'm sure back in the day, Flintknappers in the clans and the tribes would bleed, they would die. They could die. You cut your wrist, you know, you bled to death. They were all probably blind also. Really, this is something that should be done outside because of silica dust, which I don't want to do too much in here, but usually it should be done outside if you're going to learn napping, but I don't want to go too far with this. So I'm going to hit it a couple more times and that's about it. Then again, like I said, I braid it. That strengthens this platform and allows me to take flakes. I'm going to switch over to modern tools. which these are copper boppers, solid copper. This is a small one. So, but it still can do what the big one can do. So let's see what we can do. So I want to take a flake somewhere right there. All. And these pieces, once they come off, if you see how that edge, how sharp that is, it is razor sharp. It will slice you open. I can move a little faster with copper than I can antler. Antler, when you're dealing with flint knapping, your platforms need to be set up a little different. And copper is just, it's more aggressive. So, all right, I got another platform there that I'm gonna try to take out. I'm gonna try to take this piece and take that whole corner off. That's that 90 again. I gotta get rid of it. So I'm gonna take a large flake off.
So just to refresh our audience, the process of flint knapping is to make tools, right? Like spearhead.
The process of making stone tools, yes. Really, the flint knapping came from like colonial times because there was guys that were making flintlock guns. We don't know what the indigenous people called it, but they used this type of flint for flintlock rifles. So they were grinding flint, making those flintlocks. So they called them flintknappers. Why? It just took hold, and that's what we did. That's what we call ourselves.
We've got a few minutes left, and I just wanted to ask if there's anything you would like to share about the Haliwa Saponi tribe.
We're kind of a large tribe, and we have a lot of great artists there. And I just hope that all of my tribal members that have skills like I do, which is a rare skill, that they're willing to share this, and not just for Haliwa Saponis, for whoever wants to learn these type of ancient skills. Like I said, this is an ancient skill that not many people do. But I have been to the Haliwa Saponi tribe and demonstrated to the young tribal group, and they were intrigued and they liked that. And I don't know if any of them still do it, but I just demonstrated. We actually do a hands-on type thing. It's a hard work. It really is, but the reward to me, when I first started, I was just like, this is impossible, and it's something that I don't know if I want to do it, but I guess I'm a flint knapping nut now. But like I said, I do other things too. So, but flint knapping is my love and my passion, and I'm glad I'm here sharing that to this museum and other people that are looking forward to learning.
Thank you so much for sharing this skill with us.
You're welcome.
So we're going to go ahead and wrap up. But again, thank you so much, Rex, for being here with us today. There are many other events to join and watch today if you go to the schedule at nc.aihc.com.